You make it evident that so much of hip hop, even in the early years, was very politically minded. Even artists who have gone on to have very different careers, and I'm thinking specifically of Queen Latifah, were articulating some very important messages in their music. Not to mention artists like Public Enemy, NWA, The Coup, Dead Prez, and Run the Jewels. So, what are some of the politics of hip hop?
Wow. So this is at the
Softball
heart of,
for you.
yeah, yeah, right. Like this is the heart of what I do all this.
Mhm.
So hip hop is framed among working class and poor people as a way to speak back after they had been silenced. So when you're talking about the late 60s, early 70s, and the assassinations of Dr. King and Robert Kennedy, and deeper back, Malcolm X and JFK, these are folks who are at the bottom of the barrel. They can't afford instruments. They're often unemployed or dealing with addiction or coming in and out of jail, but they're hanging out with their friends on the corner and they're engaged in breakdancing and graffiti art. And then a few of them have extraordinary verbal dexterity. They're able to put together sequences of rhymes and storytelling that entertain all of their friends. And so then they have somebody who will beatbox and give them a rhythm to rhyme over. And so that organic nature of the street culture shapes the politics fundamentally of hip hop and how it evolves. And so there's a core experience about recreation, about, having and sharing joy in community. But there's also a deeper piece about the fundamental relationships we create with the people who share our passion, our insight, our experience. And I think there's a lot to be learned in politics about how that spirit is shared. I think back to the initial debates among founders in the United States about the Declaration of Independence and how it's written and how do you pull people to this radical idea. Hip hop does that in so much more powerful ways. Can you imagine if they had MCs in the process of framing the Declaration of the Constitution? Like it would have been an entirely different process, and the way people would have rallied to it. It's just completely different world. And so that's where I see the hip hop politics moving. It's about, being hungry, not having a place to sleep. You look at Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and the message, like, listen and read those words about the circumstances that are driving them to make that recording. Even when you go to the folks that are more about, say, you take Run DMC, this is much more about fun and being at parties, but they're talking about they're in college and they're trying to make a better life for themselves. And so this kind of ethos, I'm not going to argue it rises to the level of Marxian theory, but at the core of it, the analysis is moving people towards how do I have a safer, more stable life. And so they're looking at the conditions they're surrounded by. And of course, I can't answer this without talking about KRS-One and this notion of my philosophy, that there is an intellect, there is a genius at work that speaks to the ways people can take charge of their lives and build a better society for themselves.
You just heard a clip from the most recent episode of the History on Film podcast. For more of this episode and access to all our episodes, search for the History on Film podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Pandora. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel here on YouTube. Thanks for listening.